Welcome to the Intentional Encourager podcast, where each episode brings you compelling conversations and stories designed to entertain, enlighten, and encourage. And now here's your host, Brian Sexton.
And welcome into the Intentional Encourager podcast. I'm your host, Brian Sexton. Thank you for joining us again today. It is an honor, and anytime that you can have a high performance coach on the Intentional Encourager podcast, it is a thrill for me, because if anyone needs high performance, it's yours truly. If anyone needs to raise the bar on success for leaders and high achievers, it's me. If anyone needs to master time, achieve more, save time, master yourself. If I could speak correctly, that'd be great. But you know what? I've got someone here on the podcast that's going to help us do that. She is a professional and personal development coach, a best-selling co-author. My goodness, the talent just keeps getting better here with Annie Salvador joining me on the Intentional Encourager podcast. Annie, how are you today? Did I do a good enough job of adequately describing all the things that you're involved in?
You did too good. I was thinking, I want to be that girl.
Well, yeah, I think we all want to be that person. I mean, my goodness, you have done some amazing things, and we will get into that more later in our conversation. But I want to start here. And I've been, as we record this podcast and these series of podcasts in the midst of COVID-19, we're all pushing a 1 year of doing such different abnormal things. What has the last year for you been like? And what was that aha moment, or maybe something that you didn't realize was happening that was happening? You're like, I didn't see that as either a unintended benefit or unintended consequence of the pandemic.
Well, I think I'm a bit irregular because I'm crazy. I always homeschool. So for me, I've always been doing this homeschool work balance. So it hasn't created that much change in my actual life. If anything, in some ways, it made it a bit easier because everything was shut down, so I didn't have to run from A to B. But when it did influence me, because when COVID hit, that first week when we thought we were all going to die, and I was like contemplating death and reflecting upon, my life, asking myself, well, have you really paid it forward enough? And I came to the conclusion, well, I haven't, clearly there's so much more I could do. I've been being a mom and having lots of fun, but, maybe I should do more. So I am grateful for COVID for that moment, because it definitely gave me that extra push to streamline my focus. It made it bigger than myself, which
Well,
I've got.
And I was just jotting down some things. You're the first person that I've heard say, I'm grateful for the pandemic because it gave me an opportunity to reflect. Because most people were, and let's use another reword in that, you use the word reflect. Most people have been reactive. Most people have recoiled, if you will. You use that time to be reflective. When you reflected on those things, and you said, when I contemplated it, I felt like I hadn't done enough. What was the one thing that you repurposed? Another reword. What was something that you repurposed yourself to do more of, or to do more intentionally?
Well, it's been a few years of change. I just decided to knuckle down more. So the way I see it is the way I can be most useful to the world with my toolbox is the reason I coach leaders and achievers is this. It's because of the way that it can trickle down. I think it trickles down way more than most leaders pay attention to. Everything you say, how you deliver the message, all these things affect the person below, it affects the people around them, and then they take it home, and it just goes on and on and on and on. So I feel like I've had this in my mind, and then I realized, well, what about all those people who aren't there and here? So this COVID has made me think about how can I more incorporate what my toolbox to be able to hit all levels rather than just trickle from the top down. Whereas before I was very much tunneled on career. Whereas now I'm like career and then pay it forward. So the reason that I work with leaders and high achievers is so that they can go do something with it, pay it forward. And I always put that in there in the first call. My objective is that you take what I give you, you run with it, and then you go do something magnificent with it. If we all do that, then we're going to make the world a better place. But then I realized that was also cutting out a lot of other people. So I've really knuckled down and trying to put stuff together to close the gap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I get it. And I love what you said about the first thing that I say to people that I'm going to work with is this. I love how you put that out on the table, because sometimes we don't lead with the things we need to lead with.
Right.
We're just kind of going, well, it'll come up in conversation. And Annie, you are very intentional about going ahead and saying, hey, this is how I believe, and this is what I believe. And for us to work together, not only do I need to share my beliefs with you, not only do you need to share your beliefs with me, but I need to share my beliefs with you so that we can come together in alignment quicker and faster.
Exactly.
As you've worked with people during this time, what are some of the common things that they're responding back to you with, or maybe some challenges that they're responding back to you with? Because even high achievers, listen, this has been different for everyone, from high achievers and leaders all the way down, the trickle down effect. So what are you hearing from some of those people that you're coaching about how they're feeling or responding in the midst of this ongoing situation?
I feel there's definitely immense pressure. Everyone has the too many Zoom meeting complaints. It seems to be the same undercurrent everywhere. I feel like everyone's a little bit stifled. Everyone needs more fresh air. Everyone needs a change of scenery. Everyone needs that interaction that Zoom just can't give. And most people, for some reason, when people book it in their calendar, they literally booking it back to back and back. They're not even giving themselves 15 minutes pause. If everyone could just agree that we'd make all meetings 45 minutes instead of 1 hour, everyone could have 15 minutes to regroup, to put to bed the last meeting, and then get the mind focused on the next meeting. And I don't think anyone's getting that, and I don't think it's very good for you. And also, because so many people are pivoting as well, but then you have the leaders and high achievers who are then needing to encourage everyone else below them to pivot as well. And then they also have their own insecurities. Well, I might be the first to go. What if I don't learn this fast enough? So then they have all those challenges. It really has affected everyone.
Annie, you said something really good there, and I love what you said there. And it's almost like you've been reading my posts on LinkedIn, because I tell people, I say, encouraged people are empowered people.
It's all about that.
Yeah. And it feels to me, and you're the perfect person that I want to ask this to. It feels to me as though encouragement, which should be taught in most leadership courses, and when we're training leaders and training high achievers, it almost is a throwaway, like, well, that's just touchy-feely, or that's just, well, we have to lead with facts, and we have to lead with vision, and we have to lead with purpose, and we have to lead with this, we have to lead with that. And people not understanding the concept that I just mentioned, that encouraged people are empowered people, because what happens is, and I would love to get your take on this, the reason that I started doing a podcast and called it the Intentional Encourager Podcast was that I saw so much expertise out there, but not enough encouragement. And what happens is, when a person is going through something difficult, or they're going through a stressful situation, their mind blocks expertise. It can't really process or receive it because they're just looking at their situation going, there's a lot of things wrong here. But it's amazing when and I'm a sports fan, when teams are down, the coach doesn't go, well, here we're going to do this and we're going to change this plan and this, that. We're going to, here's a bunch of strategy. The coach just goes, let's go get a bucket, guys. If we're playing basketball, let's just go score and maybe we'll run off 6 or 7 points and get back into the game.
Exactly.
Why do you think or believe encouragement is not more readily taught and practiced among leaders? I'd love to get your thoughts around that.
I think the company culture has to allow for it. It has to be the norm. I also think it's difference between male and female leaders. So, for example, get on the same page, people. It's 2020, So I actually read about the study recently, and it was saying that we feel the same, male and female. We do both feel the same level of emotions and things. It's just that women share it more. Now, somehow we've taken this to be a bad thing. But then there's also other studies out there that show that if you encourage your people and show appreciation, just appreciate them, then that massively improves productivity across everyone. So, I feel like it starts with the culture first. I also feel to say, okay, well, I've decided I want to bring more appreciation into my team and I want to be able to have deeper communication. Well, you've got to set it up so it's easy. So, for example, if you're going to be given feedback, and you should be given feedback all the time if you're doing it right. If you make a habit of doing it all the time, whether it's good, bad, and deliver it in the same way, then it holds the space for it to be acceptable with everyone without people fearing that moment. And then you're having this free-flowing conversation, and then, recognizing some people have this talent and some people have that talent. And I just feel like everyone's keeping it all to themselves. And it's like this, if you start treating it all like family, then you'll do anything for your family. It's a no-brainer. What was you going to say?
No, I love that. I want to jot that down. You'll do anything for your family. That is 100% correct, because
exactly,
Annie, I love what you said about. So I want to circle back to a couple of things that were brilliant that you said. The first thing is the difference between male and female leaders. In the female leader tends to share more. They tend to open up a little more. I guess men feel like, well, caveman, good. And be the big, strong, tough leader. But I love what you said about feedback. Because I tell people this all the time. I say there's a vast difference between value and appreciation. If I am going to give someone something, I want it to be valuable to them. I don't just want to give them feedback and say, oh, I appreciate you, pat on the back, attaboy. Okay, I mean, I can do that with anybody. But people that I value, I want to let them know, you know what? This is why you're so valuable to me. I think a lot of times,
when it goes the other way too.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you're delivering bad news as well, that's still valuable to them if you deliver it in the right way. This was really, really, really great, Dan. If we can do a little bit of this as well,
No,
so you can be appreciating and you can be tough at the same time. I don't believe they have to be separate. This is what I think guys need to get more of, is you can praise and still kick ass.
You can deliver news valuably. I love that. And that's what I was writing down, delivering news valuably. Because everybody thinks, and I think a lot of times people think bad news is like, oh my gosh, well, we have to change, there's two schools of thought, Annie. It's either just hitting somebody in the face with bad news and going, here you go. And then just leaving and then just standing there trying to pick themselves up off the ground for what they just heard. Or they say, well, let me kind of tap dance around this. Let me put a good thing. Let me sandwich the bad thing. and let me put the good thing in there. And it's like, well, okay, now you're just creeping around the situation when it's probably more valuable to give that person some bad news, but then to bring some encouragement behind it to soften the blow. It's almost like we have to do one or the other. So I'm going to ask you this. How do great leaders, high-performing people deliver bad news valuably?
Well, it depends on what your foundation is, right? If you're one of these, if you've got your team set up whereby everyone is having that open dialogue, then it's all good. Listen, guys, we're really going to have to dig deep this time because this has happened. But if it comes from that place where we've all worked together and supported each other, that's not scary news, is it? Because nobody's first thought is, oh my goodness, what does this mean about me? I'm going to get pushed out. I'm going to lose this. And that's what I mean. It all depends on the foundation. And I feel like if we could just get everyone appreciating this strong foundation, thinking about in the long run, to take care of the whole, taking care of all the parts, what does that look like? And we can just start there more than all these delivering bad news, good news. It just becomes a part of the norm where it's all safe to do so. And I think it's about that element of safety.
Yeah. Well, and again, here's the thing too, and I love what you just said there. You said this, open dialogue is key. If you put everything out on, and this was something my wife and I had to do years ago. She would get upset with me and she wouldn't talk to me. And I would say, I'm sorry, I love you. And she'd be like, all right. And I was like, look, no matter what, when one of us tells the other one we love the other one, we're going to respond back.
Right.
I can be ticked off at you, but when you say I love you, you're going to get, and that was something that we had to get to that point in our marriage is like, look, if something's bothering you, you got to get it on the table now.
Right.
And yeah, it's led to, and my wife is a strong personality. I'm a strong personality. Sometimes, Annie, it results in knockdown, drag out fights, not fist fights, but the strong, I guess the strong disagreement is what I'll say. But we had to learn to stop hiding the things that were bothering us and just going, okay, in the moment, like, okay, I don't care if it's 30 seconds after you did something I didn't like. I'm going to tell you right then and there and not let it fester. And for us, it's been good because we both had to learn that lesson. My wife had to learn that lesson because she was one that just kind of kept stuff in. Like, well, I don't want to share this. I'm going to keep it in. I'm like, no, that's not fair to me that I don't know what's going on. And I'm just kind of skipping along and I think everything's cool and you're upset. And so for us, we really had to learn to get those things on the table quickly to address and bury. Let me go here for just a second and then we'll pivot to another part of our conversation. Do high performers have trouble addressing and burying, or is that a strength for a lot of high performing?
Can you say that again? Sorry.
Yeah, the skill of address and bury. We're going to bury, or however we say bury here, like it's a fruit. Yeah. So, but the way I would say it is, and if you're watching on YouTube, addressing a situation and then burying it into the ground and not bringing it back up again. How important is that skill for high-performing leaders?
I think address it in the right way. Hold the space. If you don't hold the space to get feedback on what you're saying, then you only know part of the story. How can you make good decisions from there? However, as the leader, you can put a stop on when that moment is. But you still got to hold the space for it. And you also have to have it set up so that people feel comfortable being able to give a response, even when it may not fit into everything nice and pretty. Because again, if you don't, you're only getting part of the story, and then later down the track, you might run into problems because you did indeed not have everything you need. But you do have to put a cap on when you're going to bury it. And I think that's the leader's point, is that's his job, isn't it? You know, we could do this, but after this point, we've decided, done. Because otherwise, you know, where does it end? But you should also have a rule that you have to, if you've got something to say, you say it before that point. Otherwise, forever hold your peace, you know, like in church.
Well, and again, to your point, and I love what you said there, and it reminds me that when you dig up something that's dead, it stinks, right? And so for a leader to continue to dig up something that the team thought was buried and it was a dead issue, a leader can now all of a sudden people are going, wait a minute, it's a confidence eroder, it's a trust eroder when a leader continues to bring something up like that.
I really think it's unprofessional. Actually, I hear this complaint a lot, that, you know, things are circulating around the room. I feel like, you know, when you get to a certain level, you should be too busy with your mind on the job to have any time to be doing any of that. And if you are doing that and you're still going around, you know, sowing little seeds, then you need some coaching. Because that says about you, not about the team. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, 100%. If that's you and you're listening to this podcast, I think Annie can help you with that. Let's step aside and take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment here on the Intentional Encourager podcast.
Hey everybody, Brian Sexton here. I want to tell you about our sponsor, SEO National. SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. Now, what's that, you might say? Well, search engine optimization helps you show up higher on search engines in front of paying customers for words that you as a business owner can monetize. What a great concept. SEO National is owned by my good buddy Damon Burton, who's been a guest here on the Intentional Encourager podcast. Not only has Damon and his team worked with businesses of all sizes, from e-commerce startups to NBA teams and Shark Tank featured businesses, but more importantly, Damon and his team are about transparency, trust, and providing lifetime value. So much so that he still has his first customers after opening SEO National 14 years ago. Let me give you some intentional encouragement and call Damon and his team today at 855-736-6285 or go to www.seonational.com and get a free quote.
Annie, I want to dive in to your book because it's such an interesting title. Achieve more, save time, master yourself.
Right. So the book, that's more my offering. The book itself was a collaboration with 30 other people, and it's called Successful Mind. And it really
Successful
is worth a
Mind.
read.
See, I bungled this already. My apologies. Successful Mind.
Hey, don't worry about it. You just said what I did twice. I'm happy.
Well, we try here on the Intentional Encourager podcast. We listen, people are like, do you go back and edit this stuff out? No, I don't edit this stuff out because it's the beauty of having an organic conversation. Right. You're going to slip and trip and make a couple of faux pas. Successful Mind. I love that. Tell me where the genesis of that idea came from for you.
It's actually a chap called Eric Severson. I believe that's how you say his name. If not, I'm sorry.
I like chap. You folks with you Brits have that chap and things like that. I'll tell you this though, believe it or not, and I love that we're talking like this because my last name is of English descent. The last name Sexton is actually a caretaker of a church in England. Right. Yeah, they work in the church. So I love this. But you said chap, and I was just like, oh, that is so good.
Did you see a bowler hat?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I should have worn one. I don't know what I was thinking there. But you wrote this with another co-author. So the premise.
30 co-authors. 30.
Good
so it's like
how did you do that?
Well, this guy, I mean, he's the genius behind it. I just wrote my bit, you know, but it's great because you get lots of different perspectives. So, for example, everything I've said today, there might be someone else out there saying something completely different, you know, and people come at it from all different angles. It's a great read. And actually, I think they're bringing out another one now to do with the body, you know, successful body, something like that, successful house. I can't remember right now. But I'm actually going to get it because I want to hear what 30 people have to say from all their different angles.
I would like to
like
hear
to
the
have little
successful,
chunks.
the successful body one or the successful house. I mean,
Right.
if you could come up with some good housekeeping, cleaning tips, that would be good. How,
Right.
or the one for the body, like how chocolate can actually be fuel to lose weight.
I
That
love
would
it.
be,
Oh,
yeah, that.
exactly. Where are those nuggets? Where are those nuggets?
Yes, yes. So tell me about your part in the book. What did you have to offer in the book?
I wrote a
In the impetus
chapter.
for us. Yeah.
I wrote a chapter called The Recipe for Greatness, because as far as I'm concerned, it's different for everyone. Everyone brings their own flavor, but there's, some character traits you want to be successful, right? You're going to have to be disciplined. One thing, I don't even know if I put this in the chapter, but just amazingly, the thing that I think should be in there is this appreciation thing. Appreciate it all. It's all a gift. And along your journey, the more you do that, the more you're going to enjoy the rewards.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being strategic. It's about being willing to make mistakes. And my chapter is all about that. Just a recipe, all these different parts you should put in.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually use this as a focus in my coaching as well. It's like, okay, here's you. What do you think you need? What have we got missing? What do we need to add in? What do we need to take away? What's making it taste bad?
Let's go here for a second. I love what you just said there. You're talking about people don't like admitting when they make a mistake. That is a human flaw that we have. We don't there are some people that like, I will never admit I'm wrong. I'll never admit I've made a mistake. I'll never admit this or that. I love what you said there about that philosophy and that concept. Let's go deeper a little bit on that. Why is it important for people to understand the power of admitting their mistake and how it unlocks the recipe for greatness? Because I would think that there'd be people that would say, well, and in my case, Annie, I've made a mountain of mistakes. And there are some mistakes I never want to see again. I want go a little deeper there on that thought process. Yes, go ahead, please.
Well, first of all, by embracing the fact that you're a perfectly imperfect human, you free yourself. I encourage mistakes for myself, because if I'm not making a mistake, then I'm not putting myself out there, and therefore I'm dishonoring myself because I said I wanted to go on a mission. All right, but we are perfectly imperfect, and who's judging perfection anyway? You might think you cracked it, and the person next to you might think, well, he's an asshole. It's all perception anyway. So as soon as you do that, you're freeing yourself. Also, your mind will use it against you if you do not indeed unpack the mistake. I really believe this. There's lessons in it all, and our mind's just going to bring it up again, and it's going to bring it up again. Are you ready for it now? Are you ready to talk about it now? See, you did do that, didn't you? Why did you do it? So instead of keep having the same conversation in your head, take pen to page. Okay, let me see. What did I do? How did I do it like that? What should I have done different? Who did I affect? Who do I need to forgive? What do I need to forgive myself for? How can I do it better next time? And by doing that, then when your mind brings it up again, you can go already handled, free.
Can I share something with you transparently? Mm-hmm. I have a big, like if I get called out for making a mistake, whether it at work or something, I have to force myself to let that thing go, or else I'll dwell on it. And even when I come back to it and it kind of bothers me, I still are like, let it go. Let it go. It's over with. It's done. And I don't know why, but subconsciously, my subconscious wants to keep bringing it back up, and it's been forgotten. There's been no repercussions. I mean, everything's good. But it's like my mind says, but that still bothers me.
Right. But it's that because it's like it's trying to get you to answer that question. Is it, what does it mean about you? So when that happens, I think when you make a mistake, one of the first things you want to do is go, screwed up again. There it is. Okay, what does that mean about me? That means that I was trying something new. Reframe it the way you want it. As soon as it happens, what does that mean about me? That means that I'm having a go. That means that next time I'm going to do it a little bit better. That means, and give it the meaning you want to give it, because that, you ask a question, your mind's going to find an answer, right? So at least find answers you want.
You just said something there that I want to park on for just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote this down. The power of I've screwed up again. For a lot of people, that can be discouraging. And I would push back and say, well, that's a little bit discouraging, but I see where you're going with this.
Mm-hmm.
I see. And in fact, that's actually an encouraging thing to tell yourself I've screwed up again, because one, and this is how I read that. And that's why I wrote it down. The power of I've screwed up again. What I think what I'm sensing and hearing from you is that it's like I've screwed up again, and the two words I would put behind that is so what? Exactly.
It's what you add on to it.
Right.
Oh, that means I must have done this.
Yeah. And so but the encouraging thing is, here's where I wanted to go with the encouragement, Annie. The encouraging thing is, okay, I've screwed up before.
Mm-hmm.
I'll screw up again. It's not the first time. It won't be the last. And if this is the worst that happens, it's okay.
And I'm still as awesome and worthy as I was the first day I was born. It's just another experience. That's it. I'm just adding more experience to my belt. That's all I'm doing. That's what we're here to do, right? Live.
I love that. And I had to write that. And I hope that was okay to write that down that way. The power of I've screwed up again.
I think it's the ultimate power. For me, I put disclaimers out there before I start. Listen, I swear a lot. I can't believe I haven't done so far. I'm quite impressed with myself. So, I put it out there. I'm going to say that, I'm a little bit rough around the edges. And I
can't believe I've not sworn. That is the first time in 100+ episodes I've ever heard someone say, I can't believe I haven't sworn by now.
I haven't. I'm impressed with myself.
That is so good.
Occasions where I had to catch it.
That is so good. Oh, I love that. I mean,
just own it. Who said you're meant to be perfect anyway? Who said that? No one said that. No one said that.
Exactly. We were not born with perfection. I mean, listen, as a Christian, the only two people that I ever remember that were, well, there are three. The first two were created, Adam and Eve. So they weren't born, they were created.
Right.
And then Jesus, because the Bible said he didn't know any sin. He was perfect. He was born of a virgin. He was perfect. Those are the only people that I can ever remember being perfect. All the rest of us are flawed from the minute we're born.
I don't think Jesus even thought he was perfect himself, did he?
Well, he was, what he did was he connected with people and said, look, let me help you understand what this is all about. You're being taught this, and it's what listen, in a lot of ways, what you're talking about is it's okay when you make a mistake to say, I've made a mistake. We feel like at times, Annie, that if we have to own up to something, in air quotes, that there's going to be huge ramifications from that. And so now we're just kind of bracing for impact. We're just kind of going, oh, well, oh man, this is, and I think people, to your point, I think people intentionally stress themselves over what they think the reaction is going to be, instead of just going, you know what? Here's the thing. I made a mistake. Here's what I did. Here's what I should have done. In hindsight, if I could go back and change it, I would have done this.
Right.
But going
how much
forward,
does that mean to you when someone does that and takes that ownership?
Yeah. And
I also feel that, to not give the people opportunity, in life or in business, it's like you're stealing their growth. Who are you to decide how they're going to respond and whether they're dealing with it the right way or the wrong way? Give them the chance to do it themselves. That's what relating is.
And here's the thing too, in professionally, I've done this lately. I've said, look, I apologize for that mistake. here's what I'm going to do going forward. And then when I followed up with that person, I said, look, again, I want to thank you for pointing this out to me. And here's what I've done since then to correct that mistake, that behavior. And
that there is the
setting up.
perfect response for business as far as I'm concerned, what you just said then.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to own it, and this is how I'm tweaking it to make it better.
Well, Annie, my dad always told me growing up, he said, if you say it, own it.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
that's a great lesson.
Yeah, my dad said if you
keep that for my kid.
Yeah, my dad said if you say it, own it. And even you know, I was 40 when my dad died. And even into my 40s, my dad held me to things that I would say.
Right.
And I mean, I didn't live at home. Yeah, I'd been married. I was trying to think when my dad, I'd been married 16 years when my dad passed. And so I hadn't lived in his home for 16 years, but my dad still held me to that standard of.
But it sounds like he was an authentic guy.
He was. Yeah, he was an authentic guy. But again, my dad was very quick, and I'll say this too, and it all just perfectly ties into what you're saying. My dad's philosophy was, I'm going to correct, or when I was a kid, when I would get spanking, yes, I got to spank. I got spanked when I was a kid, didn't kill me. But my dad, when he would administer the punishment, it would be over. At that moment, 5 minutes later, it was over. And I learned the power of moving on past something. I learned that. And so I'm kind of the same way with my son. I may say something, or my wife, we have a disagreement. Okay. I've said my piece. It's over. Right. Once we apologize, it's over. Let me ask you one more question, then we'll pivot to your story. What's the one thing that we can do as people and as leaders to move past lifelong mistakes? So in other words, there's something big in our past that continues to haunt us, that continues to just keep creeping up. How do we finally move on from a lifelong mistake?
Carve out a chunk of time and take pen to paper and go deep. And do not stop asking questions until you've learned everything you need to know. Know who you need to forgive, what you need to forgive for, what's the lessons, and how would you do it differently? Why did it happen? If it's something that you do repeatedly, at which point is the trigger that sets it all off? How do you know? Yeah, and then just keep asking yourself, is there anything else? Is there anything else? Is there anything else? And when it's all done, and you feel like you drained it all, then you put it to bed. Go burn that piece of paper, like transform that energy, and start over. But you've got to do the exercise, because if you don't do the exercise, you can't then beat your mind up for saying, are you ready now? Are you ready now? Because that's what the mind does. It knows that you have something there that is giving you a little blockage. It's an emotional thing. We like our thoughts and experiences are attached with emotion. So the way to heal the emotion is to heal the experience. And the way to heal the experience is to go back and face it. And don't do it from fear. You've punished yourself enough by this point, Yeah. No one is asking you to take it to death. And if you don't, then it's in your body, and then your body gets sick, and, comes this.
Yeah, exactly. Let's step aside, take a break. We'll come back here in just a moment on the Intentional Encourager podcast. Hey, everybody, Brian Sexton. Want to tell you about my new book, People Buy From People, 10 Powerful People Lessons from the Ultimate People Person. My dad. My dad was one of the greatest connectors that I ever knew. And he shared with me 10 connecting principles that I have used throughout my 25-year sales and sales management, customer engagement, and leadership career that I'm passing along to you. If you want to be a stronger, deeper, and more powerful connector, you've got to pick up a copy of People Buy From People. There are concepts in there that you may not realize help make you a power connector. You can go to Amazon and pick it up, Kindle if you're an e-reader and you like to do it that way, or now available on Audible. And there's one other way you can get a copy of People Buy From People. You can get one from me and I'll sign it for you. You go to intentionalmediaandpublishing@gmail.com and send me an email, and I'll share with you the link on how you can get a signed copy. You can buy a signed copy directly from me. Again, people buy from people. If you want to connect like never before, pick up your copy today of People Buy from People. And now let's get back to more great conversation here on the Intentional Encourager podcast. Annie, I want to dive into your story. Your story is powerful. It's incredible. I want to spend the next few minutes talking about your story. Take me as far back as you want to go from point A to today, and just kind of tell your story, how you got here.
I'll give it to you in a nutshell. So it's a bit irregular. So I was always on social services at-risk register. This is the register to watch your health because your house is a bad house. And I had a very crazy childhood. It's very violent. You know, my mum had 5 kids by the time she was 21. I'm the 6th, so you know, you can imagine it's pretty crazy there. My dad's just a complete wrong in all ways. He's so wrong, I can't even tell you how wrong he is. And then at 9 years old, went to church, came home, note on the door, go to your friends for lunch, went with my friends for lunch, and plainclothes police came, took us, threw us in a van, took us to the other side of the city. Spent a few years in children's home, foster care. I've had nice foster parents, but you know, I was already screwed up by that point. Because you know, that stuff, it damages you, and everyone differently, but it damages you somehow. And then left home when I was 16, picked a course that meant I could leave home, and I picked this college course so that I could start, you know, in the fall. And within 6 weeks, I'd met a guy, followed the first house that came along, a complete train wreck. Just did way too many drugs for a lot of years, and I was a very unhappy person. You know, I was like, you know, high and I wouldn't even speak. I was that depressed. And then one day, because this was going on and on, and I didn't believe it was right to kill yourself, and I thought to get like deeply punished for it, and I didn't know what that looked like, and that was even terrifying. And then I had like a breakthrough moment, and in that moment, all my pain left me. Basically, it was that I'd been asking all these questions all this time. You know, what if it's this, what about that? And nobody knows, and I'm hopeless and I'm helpless, and it was just worse.
So
and
you were 16 when you, don't mean to interrupt you, but I've got to ask this. I want to kind of get some clarity around this.
Yeah, it's a lot, I know.
you were 16. Mm-hmm. You leave home and start getting into some things you probably shouldn't have gotten into at 16. How old were you when you had this epiphany of, man, this is probably not the way I want the rest of my life? You said you started asking questions. How long of a gap did you have between 16 and this moment in your life?
It was about 2 years, and it was not so much asking questions, but it wasn't intentionally asking questions. It was just that they were there. You know, what does this mean about, why does this happen to me? This happened to me because of this. Just that continuous beating myself, you know. And yeah, it went on for a couple of years, and then, you know, throw drugs in there and come down in there, you know, violent boyfriend. It was just a big mess.
So when you asked yourself,
really trapped.
Annie, when you, and please forgive me for interrupting, when you asked yourself, you said, why did these things always happen to me? What was the answer to your question? Did you ever find an answer to that question of why did these things always happen to me?
I thought it was because, you know, it got very complicated, you know, with my family and things. The way violence went down, I was a bit of a thorn in the middle. So I had lots of ways to justify why this was my fault. You know, then I thought I was being punished by God. Then I thought it was a test. And then I thought it was because, you know, I was really unworthy. And if I just did this, and if I got better at that, then it, you know, they would stop. And I was always trying to do this like bartering. If I do this. But I couldn't find a way out. Just couldn't. I was just lost in it. You know, like South Pit, but I was also very shy, so I wouldn't talk to anyone or tell anyone. So then it's just, you know, non-stop, you know. And did you
not talk to anybody because
18? I had this I called it my moment. Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine why you wouldn't talk to anyone, because you're trying to put myself in that position or think about that. you think they're going to think to you think they're going to say, well, you just need to deal with it, or, well, yeah,
Wasn't
because
even
your
that.
family situation or things like that. Because a lot of times we just, when traumatic things like that happen, naturally it's just like, if I can bury it back far enough, or if nobody finds out where I came from or what's happened to me, then it's all good. It's like, it will be like it never happened. Was that kind of how you felt?
No, so like I think everyone knew, because I was just a 16-year-old roaming around on my own, and everyone I was hanging out with was much older, so everyone knew there was like something wrong. But it was more of a case of like, why am I going to say anything? No one's going to care. No one's going to help me. No one gives a shit. It was one of those. It was just like, just don't bother saying anything. You're stuck here. This is it. This is it until we die. It's going to be just like this. Same shit, different day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and again, you think to I would have to think, because I have a younger sister. I have a sister that's 17 years younger than I am. And her birth mother, the way she ended up with our family was, her birth mom got pregnant at 17 and basically was like, okay, I've got a kid. Who cares? You take her. I don't want her. And so it's kind of like, so now it's kind of like, okay. And so we're through her life, we've dealt with different things because of her genetics showing up. Like all of a sudden, like, aha. And it's like, okay, I have to understand that she's not like my sister and I, because we have two totally different sets of genetics. And so, and that was something, transparently, that was something that always frustrated my dad. He was like, I thought if we just bombarded it with environment, that some of the genetic things wouldn't come to the surface. And so my dad was kind of like that perplexed him. But my sister's doing fine now. She's dealt with some things, and it's like, look, we all have things in life that we deal with and things like that. What was the moment for you that became the greatest obstacle in that? Was there something else that happened that became a great obstacle, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I had this like terrible moment one day, with a guy, and we had a fight. And it's like, I hate you, and for some reason, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I had this terrible, terrible moment when I suddenly realized, oh my God, here I am, at the other end of the country, on my own, and nobody loves me. And it was so, like heart-wrenching. I think that was the beginning and the end, because for a few weeks, I just could not pull myself out that hopeless, worthless. And I was all of those in abundance. But it really magnified from that moment, because I was like suddenly there on my own, and it was very, very real. And I thought that was it. There was no hope for me. There's no, see, when you're coming out of children's home and things, everyone sows the seed that you're going to be like your mother, or you're going to be like your father. Our hopes for you aren't that high. If you can do this, it'd be good. So you leave them with that. So you're already waiting for it to be a disaster anyway. And then so it is. You're like, here it is. This is what it told me, and this is because of this, and I am this, and even though they did this, and it just never ends. It just goes on and on and on.
If you could go back to that Annie right now, you could go back in time, and you could find that Annie, and you could put your arm around her, what would you say to her?
What would I say to her? Going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. Watch this space. I do. I'm so grateful for it all, because it gives me my smarts. I know people very, very well. I can anticipate their thinking. I know how they're going to screw themselves over, because I've done it from every which angle you can. And from this, I also know that like people are magnificent, and you can do whatever you're willing to work for, and believe in yourself. So I'd go back and I'd say, just forget I'm here. Keep doing the journey, because it's all going to make perfect sense in the end.
So
and then go pay it forward.
Well, and again, I love what you said there in the fact of keep doing what you're doing, because a lot of people, and I would go back and I would say, stop what you're doing, because you're totally screwing it up, and go this way, because it's going to work out Beautiful.
Mhm.
But I love what you said, like, don't change a thing, because it's going to make you the person that you are. And I
We are
love that.
always in the right place, always. Even when we're in the shit of it, we're still in the right place, because that's where we find ourselves. If we're meant to be somewhere else, we'll be somewhere else. You know, we're not all meant to have the same journey. That's why this whole perfection thing is all BS, you know, because there is no rules like that. It's, you know, go do, go be, live and learn, you know. And if you don't live and learn and you screw up again and again, at some point you will.
I love what you said there. I love what you said there. Even, and this is what I wrote down, even in the wrong place, you're in the right place.
Right place. Always.
Beautiful. Leave the audience today with your biggest piece of intentional encouragement.
Biggest piece of intentional encouragement. Know that you're perfectly imperfect. Have a dream. Go after it. What are you waiting for? You know, and all along, appreciate it all and have a plan to pay it forward.
Wow. Have a plan to pay it forward. Yeah, if you see me jotting that down, it's so good. I write these things down because I don't want to forget it. And Annie, you have just, this has been such good conversation. I've enjoyed this because we're talking about different things. I mean, right? We're talking about, nobody says, I've not heard anybody say, embrace your screw up. Embrace the fact I've screwed up again. That's what I'm going to take away from this conversation, is just say to yourself, okay, I screwed up again. Tell folks how they can get connected with you and how they can get some of your resources.
Well, I've got to say, I am a LinkedIn lover. I love it. That's the way I say, you know me more, because I post on there. You know, I just post what I like. Well, you know, because I'm perfectly imperfect, and if you don't like it, jog on. So, you know, hopefully you will, and we'll connect somehow. But if not, go stress on your own.
That's why you and I get along so well. Is I've taken the same philosophy. It's like, look, if you think me talking about intentional encouragement is a broken record, just wait, because I'm going to talk about it again, and I'm going to talk about it some more. I'm going to talk about it, you know, over and over. Because I don't, my philosophy is, it's like, yeah, you know, I control my conversation. And I love the fact that you're just you. You're just being your authentic self.
Only way to be is be yourself.
Absolutely.
Everyone else is already taken, right?
That's right. Very good. Yes. What a way to end this conversation.
Marilyn Monroe.
Yes. Annie Salvador. Connect with her on LinkedIn. And this has been so cool. Thank you for joining me today on the Intentional Encourager podcast.
It's been fun. Thank you.
My thanks as always to producer Bryce Sexton and technical advisor Matt Means. And of course, the ultimate thanks goes to the Lord Jesus Christ, who provides intentional encouragement every day through his word. If you're not subscribed to the Intentional Encourager podcast, hit the subscribe button wherever you get podcasts so you don't miss an exciting episode where you can get encouraged and stay encouraged. And remember, anyone, anywhere, at any time, any place can be an intentional encourager.